I'm excited to. Chef's Honey Cute secret recipe.
I've,
Well,
I've made it quite a bit. I have a recipe that I got from my great grandma. She doesn't really measure it, but the one time she made it, everything she dumped in there, I kind of went behind her and dumped it into a measuring cup. So I had some sort of a recipe to follow, but yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about my mom. She used to what I call the quatch method. One quatch, handful. That's how she did it. Had any measuring tools at all.
Yeah, it was all just by look, or she just knew how much to put in. She never measured anything, but I was glad I went behind her and measured so I'm not as good as her.
I'm not either. I have to use measuring tools.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've made fry bread. I have some experience, but my personal fry bread is not really that good. I'm usually better like stretching and frying the bread if someone else makes the dough. I have a hard time with fry bread dough.
Good. You'll get some hints.
okay. I use my mom's pizza crust recipe for the bread dough, and it's good, but I would love to learn other ways too. So for folks coming in, Gunafchi Shati Adi the Katihan, Achtulik Egiyata Khashbene, Ya Yugita. Thank you for coming here, folks. I feel good seeing your faces today as well. And we're going to have a really fun demonstration from Shaksani Keith on how to make fry bread. So I spotlighted her, so she should be on the big screen for everybody. And in the chat, I put a link to the slides for today where I'll be taking notes, but you are also welcome to follow along if you want to open that slideshow separately on your computer, whatever works for you. But these will be available on our online learning platform. So, شخصاً که گنجشک Thanks for teaching us about bread, and I'll let you take it from here.
Name Kaduzi.
Name Kaduzi. Cheers. Name Kaduzi is fry bread.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whenever you're ready.
We're ready.
Okay. Yeah. I'm sitting here with my shower cap on, but the reason for that is I want to keep my hair to myself. So I usually use a shower cap when I'm preparing food for the family or for others. This method for making fry bread is for somebody like me who have to do everything by hand. If you have big machinery that makes the dough or needs the dough for you, or bread making machine that could really work real hard and do all the stuff for you, then you probably won't be that interested. But this is this is my method if you don't have all that equipment, just your hands. So I want to give hints as I go along. As a home ec teacher, one of the things I learned and as I was working was the flour industry, the people that makes flour, has decided that it's not a serious baker. Once in a while you make cookies, or once in a while you make gravy. Uh, they put the best flour into the 100-pound bags, the 50-pound bags, and the 25-pound bags. So if you want quality bread, you're going to have to buy a large size, not 100 pounds, but if you just want to experiment and see how it comes out, here's some flour you can buy right off the shelf, and you might make a note of it. A flour called stone burr, BUHR. That's a bread making quality flour, and it's in a small bag, 10-pound bag. I think the whole wheat flour also comes in a small bag and good quality. So if you try to make fried bread from any other kind of size flour, and they keep failing, that's probably the reason. So before you run out and buy a 25-pound bag, you might want to try working with a stone burr, I think is one. There's another one that you have to read the labels. That works. The flour I buy is the 25-pound bag, and it works well for me. And of course, I have, being a modern person, I have the measuring tools. But I have a big container that I put my flour in. So I put in one cup into the bowl, and I don't have a very large bowl because I'm making a small recipe. And the recipes that were mentioned already, that's really a good idea to use a proven recipe. But what you can do if you don't have a grandma that can give you a recipe, look in the cookbooks and for making white bread. And what I do is I just leave it calls for milk, and I never use milk in my, it's kind of like French bread. And so the flour that you get is very important and to use. And I usually just start with 1 cup into the bowl. And a lot of times when you find a recipe you like, it'll say 7 to 8 cups of flour. And I always thought, why don't they just say how much I really need? And the reason for that is they don't know how old the flour is that you have. The older the flour, the more cups you will need. So don't, whatever you do not go over. If it says 7 to 8 cups, I always really keep in mind how many cups I'm using. I really keep track of that. So this recipe I have is half of a recipe. So if I was making a loaf, it would be a half a loaf of bread, mainly because I don't want a big pile of fried bread sitting around here where nobody will eat it. So the flour, after you put the flour in, what I what I use is this instant, it's sometimes called instant and sometimes called rapid rise yeast. It's not the kind that you have to put in water and or a cake or anything like that. It's in this little pocket. And I already opened this one so I could have it ready. And I learned this as you go along making bread. You'll get hints from different bread makers. So it's good to watch and listen to anybody that you admire, excuse me, that you admire and try to use their method that they use. And I learned this from my sister-in-law is when you have the flour in the bowl, put the yeast in and mix it. Then you don't have to worry about whether the water you put in is too hot or you're gonna kill the yeast. So the yeast, the purpose of the yeast, of course, is to give the bread body to make it rise. And then I usually have another cup sitting by because I know 1 cup after you add the water is not enough, but to begin with, that's what you need. So then I have this big tablespoon. It's not a measuring spoon to do the sugar, chugua. And it's real scientific. It just depends on your own taste. So you, the sugar does 2 things. It feeds the yeast, so the yeast will be encouraged to grow. It also gives the flavor, of course. And and then there's the salt. And for that one, I actually use a measuring tool for that one. I can find it here. And I usually do like 1 teaspoon. And be sure, don't measure your salt over your bowl because a lot of extra usually goes over. And especially with me, since I can't see. So 1 teaspoon of salt. And I tried it once, really making it low salt, because people complain about that. And I'll tell you, it tastes not that great. So it's level, and you just add it to the dry stuff. So, Alan, I just like to mix it. I don't know where my helper went to. Alan? So the salt gives the flavor. I'm gonna need hot water. The salt gives flavor, and it does another thing. It also controls the yeast. So if the yeast suddenly goes crazy, if you don't have a lot of salt to control it, So it controls the yeast and it also adds flavor. So, find this is the one I really have to guess for the shortening. I'm gonna do one really full tablespoon. Yeah. Before I add the water. So you just pour the water in after it's after you got everything in. But at this time, you need to do a mental thing. Let's see, there's flour and salt and yeast and sugar and shortening. Make sure everything's in there. Okay,
The water.
pour it in. It's hot.
It's water. I'm trying to let you feel it.
Oh, not hot enough. Yeah, I usually make it as hot as I can because I want the dough to be warm as I work on it. So I know that in the old days when they had just regular yeast where you put it in a bowl and put the warm water in and watch it grow or die. I wasn't very lucky with that when I first started. That never got it right for a long time. So I was glad for the hint from my sister-in-law to just mix the yeast in. And with instant yeast, it works really well because once you finish kneading the dough, you just wait 10 minutes for it to rise. So that works well for a demonstration. The water in our pipes really get nice and hot, so that's what he's trying to get the water hot. Are there any comments or questions at this point?
Why do you like to keep your dough really warm, shucks on a cake?
What did you say?
Oh, why do you like to keep when you start with really hot water, it keeps your dough really warm? Why do you like your dough warm?
So the yeast will have time to work because you allow it only. Yeah, that's better. Yeah, so that the yeast can start working and keep working. And what I've done when it was really cold out and I found out the counters get really icy and I start kneading the dough on the really cold counter, that it does really cool off my dough.
Mm.
So some people use a hand egg beater for this level where it can do the work for you. But they're just good myself. Probably makes it harder for me, but oh, Alan. Where'd you go, Alan? So it's too too much moisture in it yet to try to knead. So I usually add a second cup. So that's how I keep track of how many cups I've used. And I can't use more than 4 cups for this particular recipe. And the flour's been pretty good, so I've been able to make it just with a little more than 3 cups. So I'll put another cup so I can knead. And another cup to stand by in case I need it. And now this so when I need this, I usually do it for 100 times. As long as I've been making bread, I still count. But I don't start counting yet because right now it's still a little needs a little more flour working on it. So you can mentally count when I tell you to start. Okay.
I'm going to try this recipe this weekend. I really appreciate you showing us. Thank you.
Alan,
Yeah.
might get this prepared. I don't need the spoon anymore. Looks like I'm not gonna need the fourth cup.
I think I counted 100.
So did you count 100? I counted 100, but
Uh,
they talking to. So,
yeah, that was 100.
yeah, something like that. It um, just so you don't quit, before before it's really needed, and you can't overdo it. Well, sometimes I think, oh, that doesn't feel right, so I just continue for a few more. And when I used to make fry bread for the kids at school, I always say, "How come your hands don't get all sticky?" No, I don't. It, I don't know. So uh, when I make bread, I don't have to get that off my hands. So I do have few that are on my fingers, but most of the time I don't. And the dough still feels warm. So what Alan is doing right now is he's warming the bowl that I mixed it in. And we're going to cover this for 10 minutes. Yeah, okay. Nice and warm. He warmed the bowl with hot water, and that helps the dough to respond, the yeast to respond. So you're protecting the yeast as much as you can, not to overheat, but to keep it warm. Are there any comments or questions at this time while we're waiting 10 minutes? Somebody time it 10 minutes, please.
I'll set a timer.
That was a really good tip about kneading it for 100 times. And that was my first time hearing of the quick yeast. What did you call it?
It's called
Instant,
rapid rise,
rapid. Yeah,
instant, depending.
yeah. Thank you. Goodness cheese.
And for 4 cups, I only use 1 package. But if
Ah,
you're making a full loaf or a lot, better use 2.
ah.
Yeah, that instant yeast is really good for, like, you have to do it for a class or one time in the summer, in the summer school, they had a lot of people volunteering to work. So they decided to cook up a whole bunch of fry bread. And it was like 2 boxes, big boxes, they wanted to treat the kids with. And they left it for days. I walked into my boss's office and I said, something's moldy in here.
Oh,
So all that bread had to be thrown out.
oh,
So, it doesn't, it's not like the store bread where it has assistance to keep it, for days. It's just regular flour and some ingredients, and it's meant to be used right away. It was introduced, I think, by the miners, the gold miners. They brought flour and sugar and yeast and showed us how to make fry bread. The Athabascans make theirs different than ours when they make the dough for ready to fry. It's they poke it full of holes so that the whole thing cooks evenly. We don't do that. It just sometimes it looks like the center is not done because of a light color, but it really works good for fried bread tacos. You can really fill it up with all kinds of goodies. But when I make the fry bread, I make them kind of just small, and we can sit and snack on it. So, are there any other questions or comments?
Yes. You said you heated up the bowl. How exactly did you do that?
Oh, just wash it in hot water. Wash it in hot water and then rub it with a little bit of oil so that it doesn't stick to when we lift this up, it won't stick to the bread, to the dough. I don't know who taught me that, but maybe I figured it out myself. But yeah, the bowl is pretty warm, and that's one thing you have to protect your cooking that way. Are there any other questions? If you put milk in, use powdered milk. Actually, bread is bread even without milk. I like to be more simple, so I just, go without the milk. And if you decide to put an egg in with it, put a little more sugar because then it becomes sweet dough, like cinnamon rolls. My mom used to make big, giant cinnamon rolls. Boy, I still remember that. But that's entirely a different recipe. But you still work it the same way with, I would still go with the 100 times kneading. And I always consider myself my hands to be pretty strong. So, but I still do that because I want to be sure that it turns out.
How much Crisco did you add to your recipe?
I just used a big tablespoon and just kind of round it up. Heaping spoon.
Okay.
The shortening makes the bread a little more crispy. So you need it for flavor and for making it a nice crumb for the bread.
Is there, oh, is there anything you do differently if you're doing a great big batch?
Of the shortening?
Of, are they all the same proportions of ingredients, or do you do anything differently when you're doing a big batch? I guess you probably do it by feel even then, whether you have enough water and
Yeah. I usually just go with, like, he gave me the 1 cup of water, and I depend that the recipe is okay, and the fact that I have a cup of flour sitting here that I didn't use doesn't bother me because of the quality of the flour that I have. So.
Do they sell that stone burr flour at Fred's?
Yeah, they sell it anywhere.
Okay.
Yeah, there's another brand that's good, but you can read it, what it says on stone burr, and there's another one that might be Kingsy or something like that. That read the labels and find out they're probably exactly alike and just the different companies and different price. And if you like, you can add some whole wheat, maybe 1 cup of whole wheat into your fry bread. It just changes the flavor, like a store-bought wheat. I feel a lot of flour on my apron. Is it 10 minutes yet?
We got 40 seconds left.
Okay. So, Alan?
Okay, there's our 10-minute timer, Shucks Sunnykeek.
Okay, Alan? Alan?
Yeah.
I'm gonna shake the bread already, so you need to start the pan.
Okay.
Now the dough is still kind of warm. And this one's for the cook. And he drops it in the oil because we don't have a electric frying pan. And if it starts spinning, that means then it is hot enough. And if it doesn't spin and just sinks, don't put your bread in yet because that means it's not ready. Some of these are bigger than some are smaller. Doesn't have to be signed. So if we use an electric frying pan, it has to be at least 300 degrees.
I appreciate all the tips you gave us about the number of times to knead and having that one piece for the cook and the type of flour to get. So thank you for all your tips. I wish we could all be there to help you with the help you with
eating,
the bread,
I know.
fry bread.
I used to treat my class with fry bread, but I try to keep it a secret. But some of the kids would come in and say, "I smell fry bread." So much for hiding it, because I didn't want them to have it till after a certain time. It's just good yeast because it really is still growing. Okay, Olive. No. Any questions or comments or so look for a recipe that you like. If you don't have one, look for one in the cookbooks. And I used to watch it, like I said, I used to watch my mom making bread, but I never learned from her. I was too busy being a kid, so when I left home, my roommate, she was in the kitchen for hours and hours and hours, just banging around, and I was doing my work, and she was working on, apparently was making bread. The only thing she knew about making bread was it takes a long time. So she let it rise, punch it down, let it rise, punch it down, let it rise, punch it down, and pretty soon it won't rise anymore. And then she cooked it, and it was edible, but it was pretty heavy. And so
That sounds like my bread.
if you punch it down after you let it rise under the bowl, that's enough. What I did was I just squeezed it a lot and then started making the dough. So she got really insulted when I made a comment about her bread. She said, "Then you make the bread." I go, oh, me and my big mouth. So what I did is I got 3 cookbooks on how to make each. It was amazing because each cookbook had a different hint that helped me about how to make bread. So, but it was fairly easy, 7 to 8 cups of flour, etc. Same thing. But the hints were about the yeast and about how long to wait and punch it down once and that's it, you know. So I was able to make a loaf of bread and haven't stopped since. Yeah, it really goes over if you have young people to make fry bread. And I used to think, I'm going to set off the fire alarm. We never did. I would make fry bread at school
Mhm.
and use an electric frying pan. If you use an electric frying pan, don't use an extension cord unless you have a power cord because it won't heat up to 300.
Oh.
I'm not sure why, but that's one thing. I didn't find out the hard way, but I found out from friends that that happens
Wow.
because I always just use the regular frying pan. And when you put it in a hot pan, then I think like 30 seconds is good enough for the small size that I made, and turn it. And I can't turn things. I can cook one side, but I can't turn it over. So that's why my grandson learned how to cook it, and I have to yell at somebody to help me with that because I can't see it.
Mhm. Do you use a lot of oil in your frying pan?
So what?
Do you use a lot of oil in your frying pan? Does it have to be pretty deep?
Yeah, we have a big frying pan because he's making a lot, and I leave it up to him to judge. If I pour it in, it's either not enough or too much. So I usually leave it up to him to judge how much oil. You're going to have to be aware when you put the dough in, it starts bubbling. So you don't want it to bubble over and start a fire.
Okay.
So, and then it looks like your oil is getting used up and you want to add some more oil. You can do that, but wait a few minutes to let it heat up again. You can't just put in the cold oil and then add the bread. If you put it in before before the oil is hot enough, it just soaks up all the oil. Becomes so heavy. And it doesn't brown. The sugar that you put in there, helps it to brown, and so does the shortening. But the two things that helps to brown your bread.
Oh, okay. Well, we're at time already for class. That flew by. I learned so much, but I just wanted to say Gunachish, Hai Dihlatu, Sakunin Kaduzi. Thank you for teaching us about fry bread.
It's goodness cheese.
Yeah, thanks for letting me do it. I like doing stuff like
It's awesome.
Have you ever used fry bread to make bread pudding?
No, I never did. But it's a thought.
Yeah, I was just thinking about it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I learned a lot from what you taught us. Goodness cheese.
Gunash.
Yeah. If you want to make fry bread tacos, make them bigger. They can put a lot in there. I make them small because it's just for snacking and eating.
Okay. Were there any other comments you wanted to leave us with, Shakhsani Keek, to close your demonstration?
Ellen,
Well,
do you have some cooked so you can show it?
almost. I'm almost done with the first batch.
Yeah, well, good luck in trying to make bread. I think some of you already are experienced, and I hope I added to your knowledge.
Yeah, we learned a lot and we're so grateful. And also, I just wanted to say thanks to Alan too. He's such a big help, and this was awesome having him here so that we could see your demonstration.
Dennis Chi, Alan.
So we'll leave this open for a few minutes in case we get a chance to see a finished piece. I know some folks have to go to work, so this recording will be available. You can tune back in later. But goodness, Chish, Johan, have a good rest of your day. And surely I'll be at your place in about 25 minutes to eat. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Cozy Claw, your hand is up.
Yeah, I was just wondering, for the show and tell food project, I was gonna do my grandma's bannock recipe just to kind of walk through that for my project. And I was just wondering, like, is there Lingit words for measurements? I couldn't find a whole bunch. I found a couple, but yeah, for like teaspoon, tablespoon. Shirley did mention the handful measurement.
Big shot. But then it doesn't indicate whether it's a tablespoon or a big. Anyway, Alan had these ready. Here's what it looks like when it's done.
Those look beautiful. Oh my gosh. Awesome.
So a little bit of syrup. Start munching.
Peanut butter.
Peanut butter.
Ah, I love that.
Looks good.
Okay. So cake shech is 1 spoon, and I took note of it in our slides. I'll put these slides on our online platform, Tovuti, for folks to be able to access. But Gwyneth Chish, for your question, Cozy Akta, we'll definitely work on measurement language too.
Yeah, that's something that we wanted to teach one time because like sewing, measurement for sewing clothes and how you measure people to make sure that it fits them. That kind of stuff was really important and it was really done well by the Native women. And the Eskimos have a method that they use, and I haven't really looked into it for sewing and stuff like that. I know how to make a blanket, but otherwise I use like modern tools to measure things.
Well, for next week, we'll continue this discussion for folks that come on Tuesday. Shakhsani Keek will be traveling next week, and so it'll be you and me and possibly Nawea as our guest co-teacher. And we'll continue answering your questions for crafting your show and tell. We'll work together on finding the language you need, and yeah, keep talking about food. Gunaf Chish, Shaksani Keek.
Playing Ganesh Chish.
This cheese.
Ah, goodness, cheese.